Hello, my dear friends, and welcome to another edition of Cyber House Party, here with your dear friend, Cyber Clive, fighting cybercrime wherever I find it. Even at Christmas, when the rest of us are on tier 3 and it's takeaways only, I can assure you, cyber criminals around the world are very much open for business and doing an awful lot of harm. So it's great that you're out there doing what you're doing, and we're here to cheer you up a bit. And also, of course, to raise money at this very important time of year of Christmas for some excellent causes. And so I've got a great opportunity to talk to people on a panel this afternoon about what they do, how it's affected, and how we can all help. So let's go ahead with that, shall we? So I'm here with Helen Shears from PSDS. I'm here with Mike McGrath from the NSPCC Childline, and I'm here with Natalie Room from Trinity Homeless. And, Natalie Room, the same surname as me, I hear you cry. Surely the name isn't that common. No, indeed, it's very exclusive. And yes, I have to declare an interest like a member of the House of Commons. She is my niece, but takes none of the money personally. Everything you give is through Just Giving and goes directly to the charities. We don't even touch it. So don't worry if there's anything dodgy going on there. Not at all. But starting, let's go against tradition. Boys first. How diverse. Mike, so NSPCC Childline, a real challenge, no doubt, this year of all years, to just keep the show on the road, do things to raise money, and no doubt the needs have changed. Let's start firstly with that. How have you found the change in what's needed of you as a charity because of what's happened in 2020 with Corona?
Thanks, Clive, and hello, everyone. Just want to start with a quick thank you to the White Hat Board Committee and the whole cybersecurity industry for all of the ongoing support that you give the charity, which is absolutely fantastic. But yeah, you're absolutely right, Clive. It's been such a difficult year.
I don't mind being Charles. I really don't. He's next in line to the throne.
I have met you before. But do forgive me, it's been a long day. It has been an incredibly difficult year in so many ways. Even before the pandemic, on average, we were contacted by a child every 25 seconds. And that is across the whole spectrum of issues that the charity is here to address and to support children and families on. And so in particular this year, as you can imagine, not just the pandemic's impact on industry and industries and companies of all kind, on each and every individual's lives. As you can imagine, the threats and the concerns around children have been huge. And so we've continued to see so many issues through children and families' experience.
Well, I mean, we're talking now about a world which is largely living behind closed doors. We're being officially sanctioned to shut up and pull up our drawbridges. And obviously for anyone where there's abuse within the home, whether it's physical abuse, sexual abuse, or mental abuse, it's so much easier for perpetrators. It's a perfect world for them, really, isn't it? Where we can't get in to see what's going on, and charities like you are having to find new ways to stop being shut out. That's the problem, isn't it?
Absolutely, and also the visibility and the support networks in children's lives, in families' lives, in their communities have been turned upside down as well. So one of the key ethos in our charity is that everyone can play a part in keeping children safe. But the layer upon layer of difficulty this year has been huge. So not just in terms of children being more hidden than they have been, in our lifetime, but also the support networks around them being impacted. And then also, we're also working on so many things around the risk to children online. And so not only are those risks going up, but also the amount of time children and families are spending online are going up as well, out of necessity, but then also it contributes to that risk.
Amongst all that legitimate use, the nefarious use hides very easily. Absolutely. And you can't see the wood for the trees. One of the advantages you have at NSPCC Childline, as one of the largest children's charities, is that at least you are well known. People know you're there and they understand what you do a bit better. But that's not always the case with some of the most deserving charities in this country that are smaller or lesser known. And so, Helen, if I could come to you to perhaps, first of all, tell us a little bit about PSDS and the work that you do that we're supporting tonight.
Okay, thanks, Clive. Yes, so we are a parent-led charity. We predominantly operate in Surrey and West Sussex, and we provide support for children and young people, including teenagers, who have Down syndrome. And most importantly as well, we also provide support for their sort of wider family. So we started as a charity. My youngest daughter, Thea, who's now 15, has Down syndrome. And myself and two other parents first sort of met through shared appointments that we our universes collided after we had children with Down syndrome. And what started literally as a coffee morning for parents, we had 7 attend the first meeting, has now become a charity. And over the last 14, 15 years, we've really expanded what we offer. And the age range of children that we're working with varies literally from babies of a few months up to teenagers around 18. So a very wide range of need within that age range. But really what we're all about is ensuring that our young people, that we recognise that every person has a huge amount of potential, and that we allow our young people to shine and show what they're made of. So all the services we provide are around that. So literally from birth up to sort of young adulthood, we're providing support for our young people to show their potential.
So there's two angles to this. One is releasing and enabling the potential within all those people living with Down syndrome that you come in contact with, which is obviously fabulous, and much underestimated the potential that people can have. There's also, you're supporting the families. Tell us a bit about, how do you do that in practice, the way you support the families who obviously these people are within that family unit? How do you do that?
Yeah, well, often a diagnosis of Down syndrome can obviously be a big shock. Some families receive their diagnosis during their pregnancy through the standard screening that's available. So we have families sometimes that contact us when they're pregnant, that are expecting a baby likely to have a diagnosis of Down syndrome. And for many families, that does come as a shock. And I think, we're there to be able to, for them to reach out, and we can show that life with a child with Down syndrome isn't a lot different to parenting any child. I mean, all children are sort of, an unwritten book, aren't they? We all don't know what our story is going to be. And I think often with children with Down syndrome, there are preconceived ideas of what Down syndrome might mean. You're often given a very bleak picture, sort of medically, of any issues that might arise, which many don't, or many don't figure massively in our children's development. And really, fundamentally, Down syndrome is more of a learning disability. It's learning differently to do things, rather than it being, your child isn't going to develop and do everything that their brothers and sisters can do. But so we support families sometimes from that very early stage, but also developmentally, we're there to provide support for families if their children they're approaching schools about placement for their children. Lots of our young people will go into mainstream school, but sometimes that can be a bit of a battle. We provide support. We have a specialist teaching service that goes into schools and provides support for the schools to enable them to best adapt their curriculum for the child who has Down syndrome. So families come to us often when they need support or have questions that they want answered. But actually what's so brilliant is many of our families are providing support for each other, because we're just showing that, how our family life will be very different to another family, but we can just be a bit of a window into life being as crazy and unpredictable as it is for parents, for any parents.
I think that's great, and you're creating or fostering a community in which everybody can help each other, rather than just all look to you for help as if you've got all the answers. You're saying, let's collectively as a community holistically find the answers together, which I think is quite enlightened, as indeed is the attitude toward Down syndrome now in comparison with generations before. I know my next door neighbour's brother is living a very fulfilled life with Down syndrome at 63. And the idea that this is something that shortens life is not as simple as once they used to think. It's actually there's far more opportunity and possibility there. That's great. So, but both of those, we are largely talking about charities who most of the time are focusing around people in their younger years. And then we come to Natalie, who I've already confessed is my beautiful and delightful niece, not that I'm biased. And you're a resident coach. I'm guessing that's not for the Red Sox or the New York Giants, but resident coach is your name within Trinity. And this is to provide housing and support for people who are currently homeless. So you're dealing with people, well, some of who are probably 15, 16 at their youngest, up into any age of adulthood until they're being really quite mature years. What kind of work are you doing with Trinity that helps them?
Thank you, Clive, and hello, everybody. It's lovely to be here and talk about this work. The work is so multifarious. I mean, we have a kind of three-pronged approach, which begins with outreach. So the idea of actually being physically in the community and meeting people who are experiencing rough sleeping right now, tonight, tomorrow, and then living almost with them in their supported accommodation, being present on a day-to-day basis, or having sort of weekly meetings. And that can be coaching based, or it can be practical support, or it can be casework. It's very various. And then we move on to trying to help people into their own accommodation. And ultimately, we want them to live these empowered, resourceful lives. Because I find that in the work I'm doing, isolation is almost second nature to many of these people, which is a word we've all used so much this year and has been amplified so much by many of my residents, that we're seeking a kind of platform to create connection for these people amongst one another, but also in the wider community.
So what I understand, this is a much more rehabilitative approach, whereas instead of just saying, here's somebody homeless, let's find them somewhere to live, we need to get people back into a world of living normally, because if they've been on the street for some time, they need a lot more help than just a shower and a change of clothes at a Christmas meal. Great though those charities are, what you're trying to do goes a lot further in helping these people to get back with their lives so that they're not back on the street a year later, which we're told is a bit of that revolving door problem there's been in the past.
Yeah, the idea is that we're sort of intercepting this cycle that affects so many people, and we're redirecting people to look sort of inward at their own tools and resources, develop those, and then hopefully they'll be prepared if they face similar challenges in the future, be it sort of drug and alcohol misuse, unemployment, or sort of criminal behaviour. They'll be able to look them in the eye and say, I've been here before and I know what I'm doing, and I'm going to sort myself out this time and reach out where I can, but trust that they have it within themselves, because it can be such a demeaning experience to need so much from others. I think we're trying to remind everybody that they've got this. We're just a kind of helping hand.
Yeah, empowering people to help themselves. So in terms of raising money, raising funds, a lot of the activities that you would have done normally can't be happening. Helen, what kind of things have you not been able to do this year?
Oh, so many of our campaigns and events that we had planned for this year have had to be either scaled right back or not happen at all. And actually, by coincidence, lockdown came the week that we were heading into Down Syndrome Awareness Week, which is around the third week of March. So we literally had a big sort of a thank you event for our fundraisers, a gathering for our families, and we do a lot of awareness raising in March. So that was our, the first main campaign of our year this year that just got completely quashed. So then during the year, what's so important for our community, our families who have a young person with Down syndrome, as we talked about earlier, is getting together as families to provide support for each other. So a lot of our fundraising goes on through events like we have like a summer event. We always do a Christmas fundraiser. We've done wine tastings, quizzes, those sorts of things. Some of which we've been able to transfer to Zoom or, to other online platforms. So that's great. But our main fundraising this year has really been affected, although we have found that people have been quite creative particularly in the first lockdown. Families wanted to be active and get out there and do things. So we set a little fundraising challenge, and families were getting really involved in that, which was great. We've had some income from trusts, some smaller trusts and funds that provide income. But yeah, we pride ourselves on the fact that we raise most of our money through our own endeavours, and we haven't been able to do very much of that this year, sadly.
Yes, and I suppose as we approach the bleak midwinter and frosty winds make moan, whatever moan is, I don't know, we don't make it anymore. It's just tougher for people to get out of doors, to be involved in a treasure hunt or some kind of even socially distanced activity,
Yeah.
because it's wet and freezing out there.
Mm.
So we really do need people to be innovative online and try and support us tonight if they can. Mike, what I mean, you've got, I know, events that I've done with you, like the big ball, big charity events in hotels in London that just haven't taken place at all. What have you been able to do to try and replace those big ticket events?
Absolutely, thanks, Clive, and very much in a similar vein to Helen. I know you mentioned earlier that obviously the NSPCC Childline is a large brand in the UK sort of charity sector, but as always with every charity out there, there's been a huge need for our work, but also a huge impact from the pandemic. So a lot of people don't realise that the NSPCC funding, over 90% of it comes from voluntary donations. So with everyone in our supporter sort of landscape being affected by the pandemic, the corporate partners that we have, the big events that we have all been affected, just like every other charity. So it's been absolutely huge effort across the whole organisation to make sure that the money is still coming in, but crucially that we're inspiring people to find a way in their lives and within their companies and within their sort of community to still contribute in some way. So there has been a huge impact across the board in so much of our fundraising in that way. But what we have done is put all of our energies into making sure that people understand just how relevant our work is in people's lives, both children and parents, but also broadly across society in keeping children safe, but also demonstrating the impact that we're having. So a lot of our work this year has not just been around fundraising in new ways and things that can be taken virtually, but also enabling our work to support people, which has then created even more sort of reciprocity with our work. So companies have been going above and beyond, for example, to help get our messages out there and amplify the work that we do. So some of our corporate partners have taken us on TV by providing us with gifted media space so that our messages can get out there. And lots of different people have contributed in different ways or gone above and beyond what they normally would do because they recognise how difficult it has been for us.
Yeah, I mean, just because a charity is big and well known, there are often assumptions that you automatically get loads of government funding, and very often that isn't the case. You can have as much independent funding as a smaller charity, like Helen's or Natalie's, where the idea that they get a check from the government every year to just keep you all going and the rest is bonus just doesn't happen. You need this money to survive. Natalie, I know that the number of houses that Trinity have that you put people in to get them back into a normal life it's grown exponentially in the last couple of years. So presumably that costs money too. Once you've grown and been that successful, a pandemic comes along, and now you've got to find the money to keep those places open, because the last thing you want to do is close them, I guess.
Absolutely. And I mean, we've been so lucky to be able to open 128 new bed spaces this year. So that's a 60% growth, which was planned for and somehow happened. I'm not sure how we managed it, but we got there. And I think a big portion of our income that keeps us sort of ticking over is through housing benefit through the government. So obviously there have been lots of kind of issues with people becoming maybe homeless for the first time and reaching out to those services. And so we've been quite short on our kind of funds in those areas, and obviously want to be compassionate to those situations and haven't, taken any action in terms of having residents. We keep maintaining everybody despite not necessarily getting the money ourselves. But subsequently, we had so many sort of big events planned. We had a big kind of sleep out event that we often do, where people get together and they camp out and basically live for one night as if they are rough sleeping. Obviously, we weren't able to run something en masse like that. So we turned that virtually, which was a success. That was a big stay indoors, effectively, which people were doing anyway. So I found that wasn't too much of a problem.
Oh, but I'm looking forward to you asking me to do this, possibly sometime this winter. I get the idea that you're going to ask me to get out there in a sleeping bag for the night. And you know what? I'll do it, folks, because I'm a good sport. As these three people are good sports, to come on to this panel with Cyber Clive, fighting cybercrime wherever he finds it, and to tell us a bit about their charities, the fact that they're surviving, but thriving, they're not. That's what they need you for. for people to actually have the money to do more than just exist as charities. They really need the help. So the Just Giving is coming all along the bottom of the screen, not just now, but throughout the evening. And give people, for it is better to give than to receive, particularly at Christmas. And the joy of giving is that we can actually genuinely make a difference to charities that are helping people who are so much more in need than ourselves at a difficult time. So thank you, Mike. Thank you, Helen. Thank you, Natalie. And I'll hand back now to the DJ boys. Nothing to do with dinner jackets, apparently. I believe it's to do with music. Some of it may be house, garage, bungalow, cul-de-sac, or rap. The only rapping I know involves presents over there and a W. So I got to go off and do Christmas. Thanks everybody very much for being part of this. And let's hope we raise as much as we can at this event. That's great. Thanks. And goodbye. Bye. And